horror stories, let the truth unfold. Master your life, let your purpose shine. Together we'll rise, it's your time to climb. Welcome to the journey, where it's time to ignite. With Coach Amber J, we'll reach a new, so get ready. Let's elevate, unlocking those keys, it's never too late. You're feeling good and looking right. With Coach Amber J, guaranteed to shine bright. Get ready.
You are the master key. Let's get started.
All right. Good. All right. So, countdown or no?
Yes,
Oh, shoot. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? We sorry about that. Blessings, love, and light. Welcome back to the VAC Podcast. It is April. It's my season. It's my birthday next week on the full moon. I'm so blessed because every day is your birthday if you got an opportunity to rise and shine. So I am so grateful. Today, I have a very special guest. He has come in and has started moving and shaking. And I mean, between a lot of us, we share our individuals amongst our coalition because that's just what we do in our network to make sure that everybody is cohesive. Dr. Eric Grayson, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for being a part of VAC now. Thank you so much for coming in. And our favorite Mumford Point Marine, Gary T. White, we love you. We miss you. Thank you so much for bringing this man into our lives, into the Mumford Point Marine team, the VAC team, and the coalition to work collectively. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we go too far.
Okay. Well, first, thanks for that introduction.
Yeah.
And thank you, Gary. Like she said, I have so much to be thankful for that, man. It's not even funny.
I know.
So I'm from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. Grew up predominantly in Inglewood, California, and the San Fernando Valley. Went to college, Central State University, which is a HBCU, which I'm so glad I went to that rather than your traditional, colleges.
Really? We're going to get into that.
Okay.
Mark that.
After I retired from playing overseas and I came here to Vegas and have loved it ever since. I've had my own personal renaissance, if you will, being here in Vegas. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the start of a lot of things. I helped start a lot of things and build a lot of things. And I've seen the different transitions and the different faces that Vegas has had in the past 20, 25 years.
You've been here 25 years,
Yes,
Dr. Grayson?
I came here in 2003.
Sir, wait a minute. I was in Texas. No, I was in Florida. No, yes. And then on to my first deployment.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I always told you, if it had not been for sports, I would have joined the military. I want to be an airplane pilot, a fighter pilot. The F-14 was my favorite plane growing up. And I had models of it and everything. My brother would tease me because I had them all in the house and I used to fly through the house, with them and everything. And I was just in love until I grew past the height limit to fly.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'6" now.
Now.
When I had that love, I was only 5'11". So
he's 6'6" now. So, sir, they don't have foot pedals.
No, have you seen the space?
I don't think.
Have you seen the space though? The cockpits for the fighter planes. I mean,
I'm Air Force, so.
Well, see, you would be cramped in that little space.
It's tight. You gotta be in there. Your head's gonna be on the canopy.
Yeah. And then, just a freak accident got me over to sports. Actually, I wanted to go into acting. I was playing basketball, and a talent scout came in and interviewed me and talked to me while I was playing basketball and offered me an opportunity to be in a movie. But the movie was centered around basketball. And at one of the table readings, the director didn't show up. And so I had just went to an audition for Love and Basketball 2 days before that with Spike Lee and them. And well, of course, the audition was to play basketball. So it's like,
Sir.
done. So I went there to do that. And then I went back to my table reading for the movie that I was going to be in, and the director didn't show up. And then what happened at the Spike Lee audition, there was so many people there. I mean, they had thousands of basketball players and everybody I knew in there because I grew up with them. And I just said,
Is that an LA thing?
it has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be.
I'm like, y'all is
all my entertainer friends, both actors and music artists, all play basketball too. So
I know.
So when he didn't show up, that gave me the sense that maybe this is not for me or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then when the guy didn't show up, I was like, okay, that was rude, because I'm from, you call when you don't show up or you're going to be late or something like that or whatever.
You're from the old school.
And I didn't hear anything from him and anything. And so on the walk home, I was contemplating everything, whatever. And so then I said, all right. So then I went back to the gym, which was right across the street from my house, Mid-Valley YMCA. And I just worked out like there was no tomorrow. And, just kind of developed my basketball skills and talent.
How long did you play?
So NBA-wise, I only had one season. I came out the lockout year. And so I was supposed to be with the Miami Heat. Johnny Cochran had a sports agency that they were bringing in basketball into their fold. They originally started with NFL and MLB. Mm-hmm. And so they were going to branch into basketball. And so how I came into that was, he was my commencement speaker at college at graduation. Mm-hmm. And he came up to me and said, hey, I got to know your career. Your president of the university speaks highly of you and everything. And I've heard you got a good, career ahead of you. Do you have representation? And I said, no, not at the moment. And I assume the head coach was my representation, because, that's who I've been with for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so he said, well, give me a call. Gave me his card. And so I called him, and then I was able to go and try out a couple things, and ended up making a team in Long Beach for the Summer League. So while I was playing there, I was getting exposure and stuff. And I got a lot of people coming up to me and asking me, was I already set? And I told them, yeah, because, I was with Johnny. And unfortunately, Johnny passed. And his agency people decided that they weren't going to pursue basketball clients and move over to stick with MLB and NFL players. So the agent that had me, obviously he left. So there was a clause that he had in his contract. He couldn't contact players if he ever was separated from the company. And then they didn't think to call their clients to let them know. And so teams can't contact you in a certain period without your representation. So I fell into a crack. And so even though I was working out with the team and I was playing in summer leagues and so on and so forth, I didn't have any representation to, give me a contract, give me a job. So then I ended up going overseas and playing in Germany and China.
Okay, I see where we're going today. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Okay, so here's your parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. So a lot of, on the Living Free Soul side, this is VAC Podcast, but Chris also has another, as you know, for the
Mm-hmm.
Living Free Soul side.
Yeah.
And we deal with our high-end clienteles and all that other good stuff. And one thing that is always parallel to them is there's an identity attached to this passion, this I'm going to be, and then something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Much like veterans, we are this soldier, and then it gets ripped. For some reason, that fiber tears. You'll always be, but that identity gets taken.
Yeah.
As a man, now I will never, we talk about this, I don't know how many times on this show, I can never speak for what it is for a man to hold his identity through his actions and the fruits of his labor, and then to have that severed, and then to not know. What they don't know is your background and studies in mental health. And so that's why I want to go into this, because April is an awareness month that before this phone dies, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what these awareness months are and how we're going to pour into it. National Minority Health Month is this month. National Public Health is this week. April 7th through the 13th. National Autism Awareness is celebrated through the month of April. We have so many veteran populations that have autism from our children from toxic exposures and things like that. So Stress Awareness Month, that's also something I teach here and all across the Valley, not just in the month of April, but all across stress management. It's going to give you a longer livelihood. Alcohol Awareness Month, just in case you didn't know, it's poisonous. I don't give a damn what they tell you. It's poison. It's not good for you. So just be aware of what they have allowed capitalism to coerce you to believe that this is okay. So many people continue to wonder, why can't I regulate my equilibrium? Meanwhile, you continue to drink, and that's the only thing that you continue to do. I just have to look at it from a chemistry standpoint to let you know it's a poison. So that's your awareness for the day. Parkinson's Awareness Month. We have the infamous Cleveland Clinic here in Las Vegas. If you are looking, and we have so many mind and brain upticks and diseases with our aging population. So if you're looking to support Parkinson's awareness, please look into the Cleveland Clinic and Lou Rovu Clinic. That's my hospital that helped save me and drive me into the direction of my ability to heal. Child Abuse Prevention Month. Look into CASA, look into how you could support some of your state and local organizations. Vet it out, do your due diligence. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is also in the month of April. For those of you that don't know where to go and what to do, you have SafeNest, you have Shiro Foundation, you have... Man, I have all of the lists in my head, but I've been up since 2 days ago. So forgive me. So look on the website, please, and you'll see all of our partners. But one of the things that we did support with Shiro Foundation, this was a letter that I received at the gala, was because of you, I am here. 36 weeks pregnant. I have to get out of the life. Shiro took me in and helped me find my way. Human trafficking. So every bit of what you do does matter. Don't think it doesn't. There's a life that is connected to it. Your National Donate Life Month. This month promotes organ, tissue, and eye donations. Do your due diligence on that. Nobody wants you to be a Frankenstein when you end up having a funeral and you look like Mr. Potato Head. You should pay attention to organ donations.
Didn't think about that, but that's a good.
That's a good analysis. Yeah, I've got some clients that have went through that. When you say you want to donate and be an organ donor, I absolutely can't because of my condition.
Right.
But if they do, they can give the family back the body just however. And so you may just have enough to have your torso with some sleeves to cover up half of the tissue arm that they took off or the leg. Not that you care, but your family might.
You know, that is scary. Something that we never thought.
You don't think about that,
but we should consider that. There should be some addendum in your.
Yes. So my living will states what I want. I do not want my son looking at Miss Potato Head. That's not going to help him. That's not going to help Timmy. Timmy, I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry, Timmy. But anyways, I want my family to remember me. So that's why I chose cremation, because at the end of the day, I also was there during Katrina when the caskets came up.
Oh.
So I was like, yeah, I'm not so sure. We got to. And then I grew up on my century-old farm, so the bodies, all my ancestors are there. So
you had a reunion of a different kind.
Yeah, they didn't pop up, but when the Department of Forestry came in and they wanted to cut with the timber, those are bodies. So when you think about rest in peace, you have to also take in consideration there's a reason that we say that. So yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It just killed the mood, guys.
Right. No, Jesus. It gets some wheels turning for sure.
I know.
It's hard to keep the visuals out too, right?
The Miss Potato Head threw it off.
that did it.
I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Talk about identity. I do not identify as my body because my body has been reflective of the things subconsciously that I hadn't handled. So I had to go into my spirit and live through the spirit in this human experience, because my body was betraying me because I had betrayed me.
Mm-hmm.
And it also had everything to do with me misidentifying myself. I did not have the choice of finishing a career. Like you didn't get the choice to go in. I got the choice to go in, start a dream, and have a dream ripped from me.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a different toll on the mind. It takes a different toll on the shoulda, woulda, couldas. I can't live in that. Those don't exist. What does exist is this identity that you see today. And how I show up today is how I show up today. And I have to show up authentically and in my truth, not who I was, not who I will be, but who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I live through my creator source, God Almighty. That's my faith, that I find reflections of values and morals that guide me into an identity that is not that of my parents, is not that of values of the military, even though they may be aligned. That's their value system. It's not my business values. It is where I come from and what I can grow into. Most individuals don't get to, for the military side, I call demilitarization, demil, that programming. There's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping the programs and the training and the significance of being able to evolve in a combat type of effective, efficient, proficient type of mindsets. But what it is not valued is you are not in fight, flight, freeze, or at war at all times. Therefore, you do not need to activate in that type of way. The programming can activate when needed, but it needs to go into a rest space so that our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system can keep our bodies aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the dis-ease that I see comes from this misidentification of, oh, I'm a warrior, I'm a soldier, I'm a this. You were for such a time. That is a version you cannot change. But where we are today is what we have to embody. Today, you are a provider. Today, you are proficient in the way that you can handle and dribble through life.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're not the basketball player. It doesn't mean that you're not the pilot that didn't get a chance to fly. It means you get to soar and fly and dribble through life in a way that God saw proficient for you and your greatest, highest good. A lot of people can't let go of those expectations and mindsets of dreams and the imagination of their higher version that they had for the convoluted ideas of the world. When I work with, I don't care if they're millionaires, I don't care if they're homeless. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have no money or all the money. If you can't have an identity of thyself and who and what you belong to, through, and for, you will be lost. And you will be a wandering soul, always with a void, always with a feeling of it's not enough, or there's got to be more. Yes, of course there's more. But it doesn't mean that you have to live in the forecast. It means that more is now. When we identify with we are enough, and just as we are now, just as it is, we can feel whole without the outside world telling us who and what we can be.
Mm-hmm.
I know who I am, and therefore my gifts will be just as they are with the person that comes in front of me. So today I could be an artist with you. Tomorrow I might be an executive business director, and the next day probably going to be a spiritual doctor, and the day after I'll be Moon's mama, and the day after that I'll be training somebody else's stuff. I can do these talents and gifts of in a poly way. I don't have to be monolithic.
Yeah.
I'm all of these gifts and talents. I don't have to choose one. But if I'm in a business, I need to stay true to what that mission is of that business and be proficient in it. But it doesn't mean that I can't be all those things in the way that I need to be, rather than someone telling and controlling and saying whether or not I'm worthy.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
With all that being said, because this is something that I kind of deal with, it's one of those mirror things where you just in your own thoughts and stuff.
Is this another one of those moments this week?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Okay, so if you were to give a notepad to all your friends, let's just say your inner circle of friends, people you see and talk to every day, and told them to write who you are to them, 9 times out of 10, almost unanimously, they're all going to have something different because you're different to everybody you're with. So with that being said, how do you know who you are if there's a different
People
version of
can,
you
to each one? So that's the authentic version that I keep trying to express. Who I am to you is who I am to everyone, correct?
I would assume that because that's
As
my
you've seen
experience.
in the
That's
circle.
my perception.
That's
right.
your perception. People can only perceive you from what they receive. Like, so if all they've ever received is this, right? They can only perceive what they receive.
Right.
So you don't know what you don't know. So from the outside looking in, if I were to have every one of my providers come in or cases come in and say, and have Bree sit down and say, okay, we're going to interview you. Tell me who Chris is.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me who Chris is to you. Oh, now you've got to sit with me.
Right.
And you got to see, whew.
See, and not because I'm here and not because I'm in front of you, but it's a superhero kind of envious kind of situation. and let me explain. Let me break it down. One is, for myself, I always wondered, who am I? What am I supposed to do? What's God's plan for me? Because I've always been in my own plan. Like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to be. And then when you get to a point in your life, especially when you have more years behind you than you have in front of you, you're like, you know what? I just want to.
You look young. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then I said, you know what? After you raise your kids and stuff like that, whatever, and then, you have this remainder, right? It's like a division problem. Mm-hmm. What's the remainder?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then you look back and you say, okay, I know what I am to my kids. I know what I am to my significant other. I know what I am as a son. I know what I am as a cousin, as a brother, and everything. But what am I to me? And what do I want to do? And did I become what I wanted to become? Or am I still? And that's the hard part. Because, see, in this space, like, certain people when they found their element, their calling, right? And then for me, it's like, I don't know what mine is. I know what mine is to other people and for other people.
For the last few weeks, have you gotten closer to that?
Absolutely. And that's because I've always been someone that wanted to work with people. And like, I pride myself because I'm a strategist mentally, and I'm a problem solver. I love to help and figure out things and solve problems and for the most part be the architect of other people's happiness. That's what gives me happiness. Now there's a flip side to that ideology that I have, is because I feel like nobody really can make me happy like I want to be happy. In a sense, that's the truth though, because nobody's supposed to make you happy. You're supposed to find your happiness yourself. And so I figured, like, for instance, that whole notion of doing something just because, that's who I am. Those are the things that I think of to do for people and stuff, because I don't experience that, haven't really experienced that, but I love that notion and that ideology. So I present it for other people.
Time. Pause.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your mirror. Who better to love you than you?
Right.
So, in your fine wine wisdom that you've aged that nobody can tell,
mm-hmm.
and you finally got to this space where you have been receiving from your significant other and life,
mm-hmm.
the things that you have wanted, desired, but like we just said, there's still this void.
Mm-hmm.
There's still that space. Now, in our work, how do we fill that space in a healthy way? What do we do to complete so that now in this healthy space, we can say this. In that picture, that the girl that a couple months before she got kidnapped, that girl, that girl could fill that space up with a lot of things. those young folks out there can fill that space up with a lot of things to instantly gratify, to feel better. How do you fill the space? You serve. 1, I can already answer that. 2, what do you do to love you in that void? Because the identity, and if you have not, as a strategist and working in the world that we do, how do you keep this flowing? Because you see what we're doing.
Right.
How do you stay full? Forget about the 11 o'clock at night phone calls. Forget about early morning, all that. When it's all settled, when you're with Kobe and I'm with Moon and everybody's in their corners, resting, recovering. Is it God that's pouring in, or is it just all the chaos just flowing?
Well, funny, I resort back to my original thing that I want to be or do. So I have a flight simulator game.
High five on the gratification. Yes.
So I have a flight simulator game, and that's my space. That's where I find that person. You know what I mean? And
you never lost your inner.
No. And that's right. And for a long time it was basketball. I'd just go shoot and stuff like that. But then, the age factor comes in, and
don't nobody know how old you.
If you're not able to perform at the level you were, or at least in your mind says you can, then it's a turnoff switch. And that's where, you hear a lot of athletes say, well, I don't have the love for the game like I did before. That's why I'm retiring, something like that. Because it's a special love that you have from being an athlete. And if you can't do that the way you're used to doing it, you don't want to do it at all. It's not one of them things where you're just gratified for just doing it. You have to do it like this. If you can't do it like that, then, you just, okay. So I just went back to what I was first comfortable with, that, and for the most part, it's something that I feel like bonded with me and my mom, because my mom was a pilot, and she stopped when she had me, and so my mom is my best friend, and I've learned a lot from my mom. And the reason why I can transition and pivot through my whole entire life is the words of wisdom that she always gave me. I always have something to fall back on. And she always showed me, okay, you don't want to be that person because that person this, and you don't want to that whatever. And she just kind of helped me guide me. She took the wisdom that she learned and from her experiences, whatever, and then just gave me kind of like the cheat sheet on to be the person that I would eventually be today. And so that's kind of where I'm at. But career-wise and professionally and stuff, obviously that's not it. That's just my comfort zone, or how I turn the machine off, at the end of the day. But
Professionally, how do you manage to flow? You're doing what you love right now. I know.
Yeah.
Like, this is the sweet spot. But before, when you're just in that identity crisis, is what I sometimes label it as, because you're just in the process. You're just trying to find. So when you're in that process and you're just doing what's necessary to pay the bills, to make ends meet, to get through the day, to satisfy a spouse, to do. What do you have advice for those young men so that they don't lose themselves?
One, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's the honest to God truth. And that there's in that sentence, how you do it. You got to have a relationship with God. There's just no way. You have to. And you have to understand who he is and what he is and everything, and the purpose. A lot of people, like, for instance, you hear people, what's the meaning of life, and also whatever. At its core, the meaning of life is love, period, point blank. Because that's why all this is here.
Love.
Because of love. The Bible is the love story of God for us. If you think about it, if you really look at it, and the people that are in it, and who they were and who they became, and what their influences were after they realized what you and I realized as far as that relationship is concerned. That's it right there, because my mom told me you need something to fall back on. And at first I thought it was just a mom's thing of worrying about her son in sports and the percentages and the statistics behind it.
I can't imagine.
And the ratios. And she was just preparing me for disappointment and how to handle that disappointment and manage it by saying, hey, if you have something to fall back on, if you have another asset or attribute, then that's not going to be that bad if this doesn't work out, rather than other people that put all their eggs in one basket and they're severely hurt and impacted by the rejection that they feel when they don't make it. And I think that helped me, and I was able to pivot and transition. And it's funny that you use this word, because it's universal in all these different spaces. You said sweet spot. Mm-hmm. So sweet spot is a term in basketball. So and your sweet spot in basketball is your high percentage area. Mm-hmm. And when you're practicing and stuff, you're taking a bunch of shots in different areas. A smart basketball player will pick spots on the floor that he think his high percentage shots is going to come from. And when he does that, then now he knows. So in the game, he's going to go to those locations and shoot rather than somewhere that's not. In golf, which is my new love right now.
So are we going to have to do that one?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a golf fundraiser thing happening for sure.
We'll make that happen.
In golf
coming up.
On your club, it's called the sweet spot. And that's where you want the ball to connect in order for the ball to end up where you need it to end up. Mm-hmm. My sister, my play sister, I lost her a couple years ago to cancer, but she had a poem. It was called The Sweet Spot. And then you just used it. And so God, I know, has a way of doing confirmations for you, and you don't know until you know. Right. So that was funny that you used that term and everything. And, but yeah, so I think in a sense, you never really stop trying to be what you think you want to be or who you want to be. I think people have advantage, like you do, to find and get there earlier in your life and career rather than later. So I think I'm there now because of what I've experienced, what I've seen, being with you, Gary, Rocco, and Lionel, and Lionel with a strong hug. Mm-hmm. He knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But those are my elements. You know what I mean? You need elements to make up your composition.
Yes, you
and you all have become my elements. You know, we're
just mirrors.
Yeah, and my fiance, she is my, I guess I would say my nucleus.
Yes.
You know, and now I have the elements to help build myself up to where I am now, which is what I want to be and what I want to do. So
you figured out what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah, exactly. And
you still want to be a superhero.
Yeah, and I felt like I was a superhero to the veterans that we acknowledged a weekend ago.
We did a whole weekend.
Yeah.
We did a weekend.
I got an email from one telling me thank you. I didn't do anything. You know, all I did was create a spreadsheet and make sure he was accounted for and make sure that he would be acknowledged. That's all I did. That little piece. Nothing in comparison to what he did to be on that list, right? But he made me feel like I did something for him.
You did.
You know, and that's what I love. That's why I love being the architect of other people's happiness. I would have loved to serve. A lot of my family members served. A lot of my family members are serving, and so I always had a soft spot or sweet spot for our military. And some of my closest friends and best friends have been people who served or are serving. Yeah. Or produce people who serve. My favorite cousin, he's like my mentor, so to speak. His two kids served in the military. So I've always been around it. Always my favorite uncle George, who I have Gary trying to look up his stuff and everything. He served, and then I learned, as most Black youths, I didn't grow up with my father, but I found out my father was in the Army, and he was a Green Beret parachute and stuff. And I never had the desire really to know him as we all in this space feel. But underlying that, we do want to know where we come from, and we do want to know what our history is on that side. So Gary's going to help me look that information up too, because that's your other half, right? So I know this half, and maybe that other half will give me some, I don't know, some type of solace, yeah, on that, to complete me, or at least
Give you answers.
Give me some answers, yeah. Why am I this way from the other end? Because it takes two in almost every situation. So there's another part of me of why I am who I am that I like to learn and know about.
Are you open to that?
Absolutely.
So we can make that happen.
Yeah. Which is a scary thing at the same time too.
You have to be ready for that.
Yeah. No, I think I am, because you just want to know you, right? Like, we just came out of Black History Month. Well, that's mine.
Talk about it.
And there's everybody wants that. Everybody should have that. That can have it. So
when we talk about history, whether we're looking at the genealogy of a person, or the genetic makeup, or the epigenetic possibility of coming from a legacy that is not at your highest good, and having to quantumly shift into breaking generational curses and breaking patterns and behaviors that you have no control over.
Yeah.
You move your hand like your daddy, and you never met your daddy. Those are things that are a part of your genetic makeup.
Or you get that famous one when your mom's mad at you.
You just like your daddy.
Bingo.
I am the spitting image of my father.
That's what my mom says. I look just like him, but if you see my mom, I look just like my mom.
I look nothing like my mom.
And my daughter, my oldest daughter, looks just like me. And now I know what my mom feels when she gets mad at me, because my daughter uses my facial expressions against me.
Yeah.
And that's not fair.
That's not fair at all. So Timmy favors both of his parents. Timmy looks like both of his parents. So, but we have these random talks because my son's my best friend. Mm-hmm. And we've been best friends since in vitro. We had this whole pack that we had together. I was like, hey, man. And he would listen. I was studying. I was finishing my undergrad. So he had to go through biology and chemistry. That's why Timmy's this way. And I remember sitting and rocking him, taking my exam in uniform. I was active duty, doing the most. And I remember looking down at him and going, I'm going to be here for you, buddy, no matter what. And not because I was his mother, because I was so blessed to know this energy that I could tell was just a blessing.
Yeah.
And I think about when I look at him and we have these conversations, I was like, oh, you're definitely, that's giving Tim Thomas. He's like, that's because I am, Mom. And I'm like, yes, Timmy. And I'm like, yes, it's giving Chris Thomas. He's like, that's because I am, Mom. And he will remind me, I am. He's like, Mom, I am the best of both of my parents.
That's what I told my daughter. She's the best parts of me.
He's like, I am the best of both of you.
Now, I'm going to tell you a weird thing that happened that I didn't know. So I was married before. So these are my kids now.
I don't believe in stepsism either.
Yeah.
Like if
turn out to be like you like I said, you don't know until you know.
No.
So for the longest, like my youngest daughter, because she's kind of like me, grew up not even knowing her dad or meeting her dad or anything like that, her biological. She grew up just knowing I was it. I'm the only thing or whatever. And then later on in life, eventually, it came to a point where she got knowledge that she had a biological father somewhere else. And that was a big challenge. And I think that's part of the dynamic that we have now is she's still processing, you know. So, because this was a conversation I had a long time ago, the person like, well, do you think you should have told her right away when she came of age or just let her find out the way she had? And I said, you know what? That's one of the things.
That's up to the
should
family.
happen organically like it did for me. And then you manage it from that point, because there's no good time or bad time to do it. And then there's no
my dad told me when I came of age that he had been married previously.
mm-hmm.
He didn't have any children with that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
However, it made a difference in my mind. Now, a child's brain is still developing all the way up to 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this identity. And my son helped me understand this after my divorce. You have this depiction and this identity of yourself in the mirrors of the people that are raising you.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a fixed in your fiber, this is me. And then someone comes in and says, this is not you. And you're forced to have to evolve and learn who you really are. It makes you pause. Who is this person? Sometimes the blame, shame, guilt will be the only thing that's focused on the process.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that? What? That's a grief stage. That's
Mm-hmm.
just grief.
Mm-hmm.
That's anger. That's frustration. That's confusion. That's someone grieving the version of something they thought they knew. We give grace to that. The second phase comes into the person going, whew. Now that I can pick these pieces up, what does this say? Is that me? Do I look? Am I ready to have that? You know what? Depending on who they are and their sign and all of that, they may be like, whatever, I am who I am, I got it. Nothing. But for someone that has an identity attached to something that doesn't exist, and truth, authenticity, it gives them a pause.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them a moment of reflection. It gives them a moment of transition. Because they have a choice at that point. What do I choose to believe about myself?
Mm-hmm.
Not what you've done, but what do I choose to believe about myself? Now, their emotional intelligence plays a part in that. It depends on what their age is and how they're able to process it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they can only perceive what they've received in life. If all they received is this, and then you give them that, how do they perceive it? You have to give them some time, give them some space. Processing is not a timetable. It's off of the person's experience. We all arrive at different times. And how we arrive is between us and our creator.
Mm-hmm.
So I give a lot of grace to parents that have to go through the blended family, that have to go through the adoption process, going into this, like where people have asked, like with me starting over, Timmy's like, no, it's just me. I'm like, dude, you're going to be 20 years old. He's like, Mom, no, it's just me. And I'm like, the thought of starting over, I can't have children.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would have to be by means of, I'm not sure if I want to do in vitro because I do have eggs, or adoption.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation, if it is whatever the child's age is, that's a conversation that I leave up to the understanding of that child. Is that child in the space? If it's a child that I took from the hospital, I feel identity because it was so difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I will always give options to anyone. That's why I run my organizations the way I do too. Options.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the option. And then when they're old enough, the only thing that they have to worry about is their truth, not who you are.
Right.
You give them the option to choose themselves. So for me, will I start over, and have another family, or go through this process and raise a child to have this magical? First of all, I'm not going to be a super mom like I was with Timmy.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned he deserved first, Lord. This work with a child is real.
Yep.
I had Timmy waiting in the car outside of crack houses and meth houses so I could go in and make sure that somebody didn't get taken advantage, or just random things. And we were having this conversation at our Women Warriors, and they were like, so what is your son like? I was like, an old man that's a psychologist that's heard too much trauma over. I thought his headphones were on. They were like, what? And I said something in the car about, and I was like, oh my God, da, 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 da. He's like, sounds like a case of sexual trauma to me, Mom. I'm like, what? How did Timmy works in the hospital?
Product of his environment.
He's a product of his environment.
Mm-hmm.
So now he went into the medical field. He's not going to be a mechanical engineer. He's in the medical field now because he's a product of his environment.
Yeah.
And he recognizes that there's a need out here. My purpose is to use my gifts as much as I can, because I didn't hide my divorce. I didn't believe in hiding. My father told me this one thing when I had the baby. So I had the baby. My father came and he said, Christina, there's only one thing I ask that you do with raising this boy. First of all, you're not a man. I was raised by an old black Southern man. So there are an indigenous type, like there are criteria for our boys. And so you are not a man. So I am here. You have a husband, but I wasn't to take his manhood from him in that way. So he said to me, don't ever lie to him. Tell him the truth, even if it hurts. Don't lie to him.
I mean, that's across the board. You should do that anyway. So.
It's not something that is given.
So, okay. So I'm glad you said that, because now it circles back to my decision to tell my daughter and when. Mm-hmm. And the thing of it is, it's like it was always a thought every year that goes by.
It is always on your mind.
Always a thought.
I can't imagine.
Every year that goes by. And when it happened, the way it happened, I wasn't happy about, which it never happens the way it could for a positive way. It happened totally in the worst way you can think. But at the same time, she has the history to use to help process that. You know what I mean? Because it was a good reason that I had for it. It was merely for protection. But sometimes I think about if it was a selfish thing, because, you really don't want nobody else involved when you
you're
have
protecting
kids.
her.
Right.
You're protecting your family. You're protecting their feelings.
And how much I loved her and her brother and stuff. You kind of almost don't want anybody else involved. But that wasn't my motive, though. So I have a clear conscience about that. That wasn't my motive. It was strictly to just protect her, because what I learned about her father wasn't good. And I knew I was good. And so I figured that's all she needed. But so now I have a situation where I almost have the same dynamic. Have a little girl and her brother at home. Same dynamic. Brother's older, daughter's younger. The brother has a relationship with his dad. She doesn't. But she's old enough to have seen and have some type of relationship with her biological father. So that part's not hard. But obviously, we all know there comes a day where that's going to be reintroduced to the situation. So
you're getting ready to get married. When's your wedding?
Date is September 27th, but it's still kind of
still shifting.
Yeah. I was forced to pick a date. Well, not forced to pick a date, but I had to get, because My relatives, you have no idea. This is a whole different story. And my cousin, I'm gonna kill him because of what he did to me the other day. But
You're gonna be happy you got this family loving y'all.
man,
That is a blessing. I am such a proponent for marriage and unity and family. That is so important to the fiber of any society is family. I know how important it is for the collective to understand what it is to have a moral value, to keep that sacred, keep that protected. You have no idea how many clients it's just marriage, like, and it's all because of societal infiltration and not enough family solid values.
yeah,
And it just interferes. But it also comes down to, I don't know myself, and I got with a person that didn't know themselves, and then there's that.
Yeah.
So I look at the children that run into the blended family experience that keep shifting through these relationships. And I have to always pull it back to the adult that is the one making the decision and say, please, before you get involved with anyone, before you lay with anyone, you have to really do your due diligence, as in, how is this going to affect not just me, them, society? Am I rearing a life, a legacy, a dynasty that will benefit to the highest good of society?
yeah, because there's so many different viewpoints to see it in. One viewpoint is, okay, you know what? I only get one life. We only get one life. There's no reset button. There's no replay. There's no
Timmy
do-over.
thought I was respawning every time I came back from the hospital. It tripped me out. I was like, you thought I was respawning? He was like, yeah, you kept dying and then coming back. I thought you were respawning.
You had extra lives.
I had extra lives. I was like, oh, it makes sense.
And then there's them, right? Okay, you guys are grown. You guys are raised. You guys have your own life. You're making your own decisions and stuff. So how much consideration do I have to give you guys in that respect, right? And then, so there's all kind of equations and stuff going on. And really there's no right way but the way you choose. You just have to choose. And that's the right way. Whatever you choose,
you have to be committed to your choice.
That's exactly. And that's it.
You could choose and then go, that's not what we're talking about. So a lot of people want to do the cake and eat it too. You have to choose and be committed and accept and commit that this is my choice. This is the road that I'm going to take. I'm going to take the ebb and flow of what comes with it. If anybody thinks that this is going to be a smooth flow, that, oh, it's a seamless relationship, everything's perfect. I had a Cinderella story. It was not perfect. Nothing about it was perfect, but it was perfect for us because we understood it was not to be perfect. It was for us to work together, to put each other first, family first, mission of that first, the protecting of that first, before I could move into the identity of, oh, let me take care of myself and just be focused on myself because myself is going to get me so much further and the family. No, it's not. You should have chosen yourself and stuck with yourself if that's what you wanted. Don't choose yourself, stick with yourself, and then ask somebody to be with you. That's manipulation. Go be by yourself, please. So I can't thank you enough for talking on that spectrum when it comes to family life. Let's talk about professionalism. What's your background? So they know.
Oh boy. Okay, so
besides basketball,
I have a background in film, music, and television. That's what I went to school for. I went to Central State University in Ohio, and my major was communications, radio and television, and a sub in journalism and marketing. And then I have an experience in the modeling and talent world. When I first moved here, one of the first things I got to do was co-manage a modeling agency with a really good friend of mine, and that helped me branch into other things, entertainment, dealing with music artists and things of that nature. And it was very popular at the time. Everybody wanted a clothing line. And so that was the boom at that time.
It's still the boom.
Yeah. So, but this was the pinnacle of what it is today.
It's how it started.
The jeans and t-shirt era. That's because everybody needed a jean or a t-shirt that they were promoting, and then that kind of launched them into other things and whatever later on. And so from there, I got heavy into the music industry, where I started managing and being a consultant for music artists and stuff, and working with members of groups and stuff like 3-6 Mafia and all the other stuff, whatever. And that was just me just getting exposure to that industry and what that looked like. And it was a very scary, which everybody's seeing now. I saw this long time ago. And so my takeaway from that is, do your job, get your check, and bounce. Don't do your job, get your check, and then try to live it and use it to catapult some other things. Nope, you're there for that purpose. Do that, get out, move on to something else. I have some really good relationships and friendships from it. Christopher Williams is like my big brother. Brian McKnight, Teddy Riley, a bunch of other people who became like my real friends and not.
And they've supported you through this process.
Yeah, they all support me and are behind anything that I do. And then obviously different things happened in the city. Like 2008 and 10, we had the recession or the economic whatever. So I went into construction because there's a friend of mine. He's like, man, my job is so laid back. Let's go do this. But I can never go into something the way I was brought in. I always find, like I said, the way that mine works. So I end up coming in as a material handler and end up being a fire and safety inspector. So I got to be a part of and responsible for a lot of things that happened on the Strip. The Encore. I'm responsible for all the nightclubs and kitchens and stuff like that. That's what we handled. The whole entire project of City Center. I've been in every nook and cranny of that project. I was going over to Resort World when everything kind of stopped from there. And then, Fontainebleau and Resort World just in the last 3 years got completed. And they were on hiatus for 10 years. I worked in call centers to where, I got to really develop my social skills and interpersonal skills and helping problem solve. That's what I'm good at. And so then I learned the travel industry. I went to go be a quality control manager for a company that their main focus was timeshare. And so I learned that whole industry, and I ended up developing programs there while I was there and helping structure things. And then I got back into film and television, became a producer with United Cinema Group, and they're an extension of Paramount Pictures. So I finally made it to where I actually got some input and I could develop my own 2 shows. Never got off the ground because everybody knows how Hollywood works. There's so much stuff that got filmed that's sitting on the shelf or somebody's desk.
I know.
From 20 years ago. A lot of times the movies you're seeing today was on somebody's desk for like 30 years. And then I got back into sports. My youngest got into sports, so I became a coach. She volunteered me for everything. And so that was fun. And then I got back into the entertainment industry, and I said, you know what, I don't like the way other people are doing things. So, it comes from the notion, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. So I started an entertainment company. I went in for nightlife industry to help the little guy experience what the big guy does. So I help people who didn't have all the commons in their bank accounts, but have the same experience everybody else does when they come to Vegas. And I've gotten some really great relationships from that. I've been a part of people's families and baby announcements and wedding announcements, and I was in people's weddings and stuff like that, which was crazy if you figure how the relationship even started. It's not supposed to happen, right? But all along the way since I've been here, I started out with helping youth in our low income area. So just funny, right across the street is where I did my first youth program. I did a basketball training and stuff for kids over there at Doolittle. And I have my own pocket and everything. And I said, I want to go bigger because I can help more kids. So I went through the Clark County School District. Nightmare, but helped a lot of kids, which hopefully, well, that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
And then I got involved with helping homeless and then veterans, because that makes up the majority of our population, sadly, that are homeless. Are a lot of them are veterans. And then then I was back in the entertainment industry. I was working on TV shows and concerts and things of that nature. And then pandemic hit. And so then I had to pivot over to something else. I got into the medical industry by selling medical supplies and equipment and helping strategize the complexities that the world was suffering from. My closest connection was Hawaii. I had a friend there, and Hawaii didn't have anything. And no ships could go in there, and no ships was coming out. So I helped build a mask making facility there in gloves so that they would have their own protection over there that they couldn't get from anywhere else. And I got a really cool friendship from another relationship during developing the TV show for Vegas. And he decided to run for governor. So I helped him in his campaign. I was his kind of his consultant and advisor and stuff, and just kind of boots on the ground with him. If he had won, I would have been his chief of staff. But he should have won. And now the people in Hawaii realize the candidate that did win is not the guy. Because we saw what happened with Maui. That's a whole nother show too. But then, and then after that, I just started, so I'm gonna go back to what I love. And that was serving. And that was, trying to find ways and organizations to help our homeless and our veterans. And then I learned a lot in the organization. I'm not currently in that organization anymore, which is another show too.
We ain't even gonna get that. I don't even. You know what?
Yeah,
you know what?
Yeah.
You know what?
But I'm thankful for that experience because of what I learned.
I'm trying to be thankful.
And the people that came from that situation. That's a great thing about God. No matter
count it all joy.
Where you are or what's supposed to, He will take
and make it good.
And make it good.
All of this, to be honest, the new coalition that we have is all victims of this person, if we're being honest. Hence why we do that whole opportunity for us to do those secret shoppers to verify your robust programs. I didn't do my due diligence. So in the beginning of entrepreneurship, you make a lot of choices that may not benefit you. I'm not going to say it's a mistake because nothing
happens by accident.
It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
Will you take a couple L's? Yes. You're going to take a couple L's, a couple bricks, a couple L's. Listen.
Truck going to run you over.
And back up. Beep. A beep. It was hard for me to get taken advantage of and being the person that's supposed to be the protector of those.
Right. That's what really gets you.
Me.
That's what really gets you. Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. How? And this is why we have to understand what it is to know thyself. Now, if I know myself and understood what it is that God had placed within me to know what was right, I wouldn't have been dependent on something outside of me that got me in this position. So I can't be truly, fully upset with a person that was sent to kill, steal, and destroy from the enemy, when in reality is I got to look at myself instead of throwing the rock to him and say, but you knew what God told you to do. I hold myself accountable for giving somebody the eyes of God when I am not God. I need to see you for the broke, busted, disgusted piece of crap you are and still love you as you are in your disgust and not pretend to be God and take you in and then take in the harm and damage that you can do to me. There's something called boundaries. Here you are, stay there. No, I don't need your support. No, I don't want your support. No, I'm not going to support you either. Because the reality is there's an alignment, misalignment. That's misaligned. I have a choice when I see, if I know myself and what's for me, that's not for me. I choose to go this way. But because I chose to get in my ego and say, nah, it'll be all right. They ain't gonna do that to me. Does a snake shed its skin? It's going to continue to shed its skin and get bigger. A thing is a thing is a thing is a thing. And yes, you may be able to quantumly morph, but that takes a very long process of behavior and pattern personal development building. And if I have not seen the fruits of your labor to produce something different in that equation and all the variables are the same, the sum of that equation is going to be the same BS that already was there. There's nothing any different that they've shown you. This is in people, places, and things. Your variables are your variables. If those variables do not change, expect that sum to end up being the same. There's nothing you did any different. So why would you be insane enough to think you're going to get a different result?
Yeah.
I don't blame individuals or shame. No, I take that back. I did shame this one. I did blast this one pretty badly. And I did it in such a way that I said, I'm putting my foot down. You will not violate another veteran, another organization, so that you can get ahead. So my brother said something to me. I'm so glad we have this family that we do, that we've created. And my brother's a veteran. I'm retired out of the Air Guard. Shout out, Chucky. Love you. He said, Chrissy, I want you to know something. I love you. I love what you do. My brother served 20 years, Metro, not Metro, but police force, many different, local districts. Made it all the way to be assistant chief of police and all of that. He says, but one thing I need you to understand, if there is money to be made off of the vulnerable, don't stand in the way of that, because then I have to protect you.
Wow. Ooh, what do you do with that?
Take heed. These individuals capitalize. Capitalism doesn't exist without the vulnerable. Capitalism takes those that are in the conversation you had earlier with Cyril about someone that doesn't appreciate those that serve because they see it as an inferior experience. So I'm going to take advantage. Capitalism would never have happened in this country without slavery.
Oh, yeah.
So without taking advantage of a vulnerable person or manipulating individuals, you have no gain. So if you keep people oppressed systemically, psychologically, socially, emotionally, you will not be able, that person will not be able to break free and know anything any different. So you will become the sheep, you will become the minion, and you will be controlled and be that like a cattle in a machine. So for those that don't know their identity, you run the higher affinity of a risk of becoming the sheep because you do not think for yourself, because you don't know yourself. What you do know has been a program or projection from somebody else that you don't even fully have connection or understanding to.
Yeah.
So you fall victim to systems.
And don't get us wrong. Nobody's perfect.
Nope.
And when you find yourself in a habitat that, especially when it's brought to your attention, then now it's your responsibility.
It's your responsibility when it's brought to your attention. Hey, did you know that this pattern of thought is an ism? That could be racism, sexism. Your pattern of thought is giving this energy. It is not for you to go, no, it's not. You need to be. Did you just stop and think that maybe you don't want to hurt someone else with a pattern of your thought that you haven't even verified is the truth. I saw something that popped up and all of a sudden everything becomes a political conversation. And none of these people have anything to do with politics. And it's just killing me. I'm like, what have you done for your community? But your mouth is all on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you've done nothing. You barely voted. So they're like, oh, this person's got, I don't know what they said. That just shows that you have a calcified pineal gland and you voted for Kamala. And I'm like, you guys do realize, like, as a bipartisan person, both sides, this right here, y'all have lost your way completely.
So I don't know if this is a situation where you can give your opinions and stuff like that, whatever. But here's my take on this whole situation. I have friends on both ends.
We do.
Right? And the way I see things is, okay, and I've said this before, so I'm comfortable with saying it again. This party system needs to go. There is no advantage but disadvantage with this party system. It is so corrupt on both sides because we all know, me being are off, everybody's friends. They all know each other. They make deals in that other room, and then they come back on the camera.
We make deals in other rooms, and then when
defeats the purpose and the premise that the Constitution was founded on, which that's what we're getting away from by having this party system. The best candidate for the job should be an American, period, because we're all American at this point. We're not trying to separate from another country. We're not trying to do the things that were in place at the time this country was being founded and built. This is a whole new dynamic. Everybody's here now. Where do we go from here? Well, all the songs that have been created in regards to such, and all our constitutions and all those things reflect it not being a party system situation. It's just the best candidates for the job, right? Because we've gotten away from everything is, and I know this because of my sports background, it's all competitive. It's who can do what to the other person.
It's a popularity contest,
right,
and a marketing
I don't know
contest.
Half of our current sitting people in their positions, what they stand for or what their beliefs are. All I know is how much dirt they had on the other person. And the only identity I have from these people is when I turn the corner and I see their billboards that they have in the ground. That's how I identify with our political candidates and sitting people right now. It's not until afterwards do we get the elected people. Now we see them. But in my opinion, if you're a politician and if you're absolute in your viewpoints and what you want to do for the community, it shouldn't stop or start whether you get elected or not. It should still see you out there if you didn't win. And then once you do get elected, I still should have access to you. I should be able to see you and find you. You're not confined to that desk and in your public appearance because the cameras are on and you have to say this and say that, whatever. And that's just my take on it.
It's funny you say that. We did 2 historical things. Well, we keep doing historical things. We have an actual pinning tomorrow. Not our 101-year-old, but the oldest Vietnam veteran era woman, Miss Yvonne Terrell, who was actually in Vietnam, had her feet in Vietnam. So to award her tomorrow and him, and to understand the importance of that. The reason I bring that up is because we made a post. We don't post like he says. He sees me as this superwoman because he sees me save a lot of things and do things my team does that I'll never post about. It's not for you to know. It's kind of like that vigilante thing, you know. Mm-hmm. You just let it keep going. Like let it flow. You don't need to know who the real decision makers and the movers and the shakers are, because that's why they're in the background doing the things they're doing. They're not distracted with the facade that you guys are distracted with.
Because it's all a distraction.
It's all a distraction. So we did the event with the highway, and Rocco was supposed to be here. We will do that, and we might do that for the news.
Thank you again, Rocco.
We love you, Rocco. So you guys have seen Rocco here, the Greater Las Vegas Resource Center. He introduced that here on the podcast, but that's also one of our directors is doing outreach. And he's also my brother. After one of my major seizures that I was debilitated, he ensured that I had organic food to help me get my brain and my body back right. So he delivered food to me and all my homeless veterans because I couldn't during that time. So I need people to see it takes a village for all of us. Our entire organization is disabled veterans, rehabilitated, and veterans and family members and individuals that have supported our veterans. That's how it's ran, with those people in the roles that have done the work and been through the trial. Rocco stands out. Although we sat up here and had our candid conversations about relationships in his past life.
No, you didn't.
Yes, he did. He went into the pimp stories and everything.
Oh, boy.
Poor Elias. Elias was like, Lord, we ain't going to be able to air this one. I was like, Rocco, stop. But he was telling his testimony.
You had to wait till prime time. You had to wait till after 6 and then let him talk.
Then let him talk. So my brother, the reason I bring this up, a lot of folks ask, Chris, why didn't you run? I'm not here for that. I will do far greater for my community and what I do this way than to sit up here and be the politician that has to answer in the line of a party.
Yeah, because they make you choose a side.
You have to choose a side. And so I refuse to choose a side. I refuse to choose the highest, best care practice for the people. That's the side I choose, the people. And so I had I coordinate with all of the multi-district representatives. And so Gary and everyone said, hey, Chris, you need to let the reps know that we're doing this. And I said, no problem. It's imperative that Congressman Horsford knows that he did this, because this is the individual that made sure that the flag was flying over the White House that we presented in our first annual multicultural penning ceremony. He was in session when we did it, so I didn't want him to miss this. So we got in touch with the office. I mean, I work very close with all my offices because those cases go to the representatives to address them. And they said, are you kidding me, Chris? And I said, yes. And so Rocco made this happen. Gary put the presentation together. We threw it all. We weren't going to let this not happen just because the cameras weren't rolling.
Yeah.
Why? Well, why do we need to do it? Because there's a movie out there by Tyler Perry, but the reality is, it's the person that matters, not the movie, the person. Lena King is her name. That's who her name is. Not 6888 movie. Yeah. Like the person that we are trying to show you the significance in being able to say they matter. And so I showed the video went across the spectrum, is like a couple thousand, views, because it's not public. We didn't make this for everybody. It wasn't about the clout.
Right.
And a particular person said, oh, snap. I didn't know Congressman Horsford really did a lot for y'all, but I see he be doing everything. And I'm like, what, you just listen to the news and all of the trash?
Right.
So going back to what you're saying.
That's what I'm
So I said,
about.
do you realize that every single case that I get is in his district? He makes sure that he has some form of an answer. Do you know every single piece of legislation that I've asked them to look at because of these cases, he took to his desk and made sure that he had some form of information so that the House knew what was happening in his district? Do you know that you can look on the history of C-SPAN and Google it and see him talking about the cases that we have sent him? Don't tell me that all you know is the trash because you choose to see the trash. There's plenty out there to show you of what a person's work is. There's plenty of trash on me. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Who doesn't have it? Right?
Keep it up. It's not for me to care about that. That's for you to keep rent free in your head. That ain't my business. You the one doing that for yourself.
It was a reunion for me and him, and I don't think he remembers because he kind of looked at me
He did. I saw.
And but when he was first starting, he did a backpack thing for back to school for kids.
He loves kids.
And so I was there helping him fill. I went all around town grabbing materials and stuff to put in the backpacks. And then when I got there, I became part of the staff to fill the backpacks and hand them out and so on and so forth. And
how many of those events are constantly through the time that you've been here? He's an advocate first. Every year. If he's here, his whole role is to work. Yeah. He works when he's here. He's not here taking pictures. Yeah. He's in town halls. He's in round tables. He's writing information. He's taking down notes. This isn't just him. Senator Rosen, the state senator, Senator Cortez Masto, both of them. My military sexual trauma women, Cortez Masto took those cases, and Susie Lee took those cases immediately and started looking at the state and started looking at the legislation and the gap in the policy. Don't tell me all you know is they didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. What are you doing for your community? Stop putting all of it on your politician. Get up. First of all, fix your mind and your mouth before you go out your door. Fix your heart. Fix it. Because before you go and project your negative internalization of perception to somebody else, check yourself. What have you done for your family and community? While you're asking them, because you voted, oh, I went and I voted for you. I ain't seen no results. Did you tell them what you needed? Did you ensure that your voice was heard?
You know, it's funny you say that because, okay, so during campaign season, every time there's an election coming up, there are a lot of places that all the candidates show up to.
Yes.
And they're not really supporting the event that they're at per se. It's for them to be able to get in front of something and say something. I don't see anybody from the public showing up at those places too.
They never do.
Which you can. It's public. I've actually told Republican and Democratic and independent candidates exactly what's on my mind as an individual and then as a community person. I need you guys to develop and tell us what your fixes are for the things that we deal with every day, not just the hot topic of the week or the month. You know, our communities, there's a disconnect. Our law enforcement, there's a disconnect.
Oh God, the law enforcement is a huge, you have a lot of resources.
And I'm not gonna say that, but one actually had a question to me, how would you fix it? Or what would be a remedy for you? I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. Police brutality because there's no relationship formed between the police and the community that they serve.
That's actually a statistic. We've done the data. That's a.
When I was a kid, I loved finding the police officer.
Me too.
Because
and a firefighter.
They had baseball cards that they used to carry.
Really?
And we used to run to them because we wanted those baseball cards. And then one of the little packs that had the gum come in it.
Oh yeah, the bubble gum.
And that was and over the years they got to know us. So I knew police officers in my neighborhood. I wasn't afraid of police. They weren't afraid of me.
You were in Ohio?
No, this is in LA. This is in Inglewood.
What year?
Well, I grew up in the 80s into the 90s.
Wait, you was there during brain. I've been up. Hit the streets.
Everything. Were you talking about the traumatic things that happened in that, or the Rodney King and
Rodney
all that
King.
Stuff, whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, I was there for all that.
So how was you that kid and Rodney King happened?
Okay, so I was that kid and stuff. I've never feared the police. Never had a reason. I've seen television and news and stuff like that, but it's because of my personal experience, right? So your personal experiences versus somebody else's experience, two different things. You don't know until you experience, and that's the disconnect between people that are not a minority. That's because they never experienced it, so they can't really comprehend and know what we go through, right? But until they experience it themselves, then they say, and that's why it's important for those movies to come out, 688, and other movies, the Red Tails and stuff like that. It's not so we, in a sense, are just saying, oh, look what we did. No, it's so that you know our contribution to the world that you live in and that you're benefiting from.
Or maybe so much as the living experience and the detail and the essence
Right.
of a culture, because the cultural competence is what is lacking.
Right.
Police have a culture. Veterans have a culture. Blacks have a culture. Many cultures within the Black culture. Many.
Yeah.
Many.
So how you fix the problem is you take the police and you take them out of their patrol cars and you make them walk the communities that they're supposed to serve and
Metro
protect.
does that. So Metro has it. North Las Vegas, I don't believe has it, but Metro. So this is a part of justice reform policy that 2020 that I believe I remember. Okay, so community ambassadors is what during that policy
Yes.
work is what was brought up as a solution. I do roundtables and solution-driven brain trust, things like that, with key stakeholders and providers at the table to formulate outside of the big conferences by VA SAMHSA and all of your state entities and sectors of the public sectors that are funded. But you take these town hall and these development conversations in the community and you give it to those stakeholders. What happens from that, you find, oh, well, what's the gap? Why does this keep happening? Well, you don't have a relationship. There's no trust. And there's too many bad apples and not enough good apples. And there's too much media and bad PR. So first of all, clean up the PR. Second of all, you can't say clean up an organizational cultural experience. That's what it is.
Yeah.
If it's embedded in racism, you have to accept it's embedded in racism. If it's embedded in policies that are outdated, that's where you can make the changes to change the policies, which will change the people's behaviors. Policies mitigate that by being able to put things in place. But then when you have, a tangerine tyrant sitting up there giving police officers immunity on the State of the Union, you just literally killed any type of PR salvaging, and you've pretty much enforced the fear that was already there and the stigma that was already there. My family is police officers in the past. They're out of the field now. So I grew up with a high regard and respect, not just because of my veteran generational background, but because I also understood what it is for them to be on the force and be a minority on the force. I prayed every day for my brother and my sister-in-law, as she was Metro and he was in just a regular district. Every single day as a Black man, as a police officer, he made, like you, we weren't raised to be in fear. We weren't raised to have this regard. He was security forces. He was, all of these different things. But as a Black man on the street or a brown man on the street that doesn't know if he needs to come out or run, or is that really Homeland Security, or is that just some white supremacist acting up and about to snatch me? When you set a tone of fear, you set a precedence of no stability. So what I say for community development, get to know who is who. We're learning through social media when people are popping off in these little apps and platforms how people really feel. And then it's getting blasted out to the world. Is that a true reflection of what's going on behind closed doors, or are they in a heightened, frustrated experience and just got misinterpreted? I don't know. What I do know is we can only gauge people by their character and their behaviors and patterns. And if there's a behavior and a pattern that continuously shows up, you're going to have issues that will not allow you the opportunity to redeem yourself and to have a better way of life and a better society.
Right.
So I think we had a down-to-earth, one-on-one, beautiful podcast to get to know our wonderful Dr. Eric Grayson that's coming on board for our Veteran Advocacy Council.
Yes.
We're going to get ready to get out of here. We got some redeeming to do here in the community and some more community development. Tomorrow we will have a ceremony another pinning, like I said, with 2 individuals, seniors in our community. The following weekend is my birthday. I don't know if I'm going to be here, Surreal, for my birthday. Y'all going to throw me a birthday party? You ain't, you know what? Surreal. Y'all going to throw me a birthday party?
See, you didn't learn anything from this conversation. On camera versus off camera. You could have said.
Yes,
everything
girl.
on camera.
We got it, girl. I cannot with y'all. I done gave y'all all this. You can't even give me no birthday. You ain't gonna give me no cupcake. I'm messing with you. Actually, I'm gonna invite you guys over. I'm joking with you. I don't. Huh?
See, there you go. Politician in the making.
He doesn't want to make a promise that he can't keep.
Just a politician. He gave me a political answer. That's what he did. Yes, you did. No, you gave me a political answer. We could see through it, Surreal. You gotta lie better, buddy. Lie better. So
We'll talk off camera.
we talk off camera. No. Next week, for real, my birthday, Adventure Child. I will be going out and doing a wonderful full moon adventure.
Aries?
Yes.
I have
Full
an Aries too. My Aries is on the 18th.
Yes, full Aries, sun and moon with that rising Gemini. Don't try me.
Okay, Gemini. My mom's a Gemini.
Just playing with
Funny story. Every time, so Gemini. I don't believe in all that
you
stuff,
better
but
stop.
there's some characteristics that
How you
I
not
do
gonna believe in astrology?
I'm just saying in the sense where I you know what I mean, right? You know what I'm saying. So my mom,
I ain't listening to
that
you.
split personality is
I know you do, boo.
is so true. My mom is 2 people.
Sure,
and
she's
so-
a Gemini.
So I would, when my brother and my mom were living together, I would say, "Is Sandy home or is Mom home?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because if Sandy's home, I'll come back another time. If Mom is home, I'm coming over."
Yikes! My baby is a Scorpio Aries, so
But I love my Gemini though. Don't
yeah.
Don't let me.
I love me as a full Aries. I am who I am.
My brother's a Virgo.
I don't know about no Virgo. Y'all see y'all
But
be
I
lying
love him.
too
He's
much.
my best friend.
Lying. You just
he's
lied,
my ride or die.
Surreal. So I'm gonna stop playing with you. So
And I got a Taurus. My Taurus, that's my
I love
youngest.
Tauruses.
That's my heart and soul. you know?
My first love was a Taurus,
Mhm,
a borderline Aries Taurus,
mhm.
but he was awesome. And then I realized that they're really stuck. Like they get stuck in their ways.
Mhm.
And then I found love later in the Taurus. Like love and I see love as any forms of relationships, not on some poly stuff that Rocco was saying. I'm not poly. Jesus Christ.
Out of
So,
all the, I've dealt with a lot of just personally. I got Leos and all sorts of whatever, but my Taurus and my Aries,
When's your birthday?
mine's January 22nd.
Oh Lord.
My Taurus and my Aries, I know who they are, and they make sure I know who they are. The other ones, it's a toss up mood wise.
Oh, so they got some mood.
But
that could just be
Taurus,
personality.
It's
Just trauma.
My Taurus and my Aries are, but then there's they daddy's girls too, and they know they got me. So
Yeah, you can't even judge that.
yeah,
You can't even judge that. I grew up in a house of water as a full fire sign. And how that work out?
oh boy.
With Cancer and Pisces. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Yeah, he already knows.
So
He
your
already-
thermostat in the house never worked.
Nope. It's a full-on phoenix. Every day they're like, there she is.
See, I'm an Aquarius, but see, I don't know where I'm at because I was born premature. So
Doesn't matter. When you were born was when you were born.
so
that's your date.
That's the
That's
date.
your
No
date.
matter what. Okay.
No matter what.
Then,
I was
okay. See,
premature
I
too.
never knew that. Okay.
Yeah. When you're born is when you came
My mom
through.
had pneumonia
Oh,
at
Lord.
4 months, and then they let her go to 6 months, and she had double pneumonia, so they took me at 6 months.
And you still turned out to be 6'6". You see that, y'all? God is good.
God's plan versus
You
God's
see? All right. So after my birthday, if you're so blessed, We will not be doing our 420 giveaway due to the taxation issues. So I will not be doing my 420 giveaway at the dispensary unless any of my darling friends calls me after this podcast and says, Chris, tell them to come through. And then I will tell you immediately. You know what? I don't even know how many pounds of cannabis I done gave out. I'm so blessed to be able to
6 p.m. somewhere. So
no, man. So your medicinal stuff, your safe access, I'm gonna find it, y'all. All my friends in weed is my friends indeed. If y'all got it and you are my dispensary folks and you're trying to do the safe access for my cannabis, hit me up because as y'all saw, I had a lot going on. That's on 420. I am not going to be at the National Cannabis Festival. RFK Stadium is being redone and there's a lot going on there. So the National Cannabis Festival will be July 19th through the 20th. I'll be speaking on plant medicine, cannabis, and all the reform and whatever. Who knows by July? I'll let you know. What else is after that? Out of Darkness, April 26th. April 24th is the Veteran Brain Trust. All my stakeholders are going to be there to listen to my veteran organization providers that have had funding cuts and have had to re-strategize. So they're going to be sitting at the table. We're going to be doing it out of the office. So it'll be downtown. It will not be at City Hall. It's going to be very intimate, sacred space. It's a very hard time for us. So I don't want a convoluted. We will have that virtual access. So for everybody else that is still funneling in and supporting and needing to know what's going on as providers, you'll have access to view in, submit your comments. But this is a conversation that our senators and our Congress, city representatives and state representatives need to hear. Mm-hmm. So that Veteran Brain Trust will be the monthly meeting this month, and we will be going over quarterly what it is that's happened in the last quarter in those cuts. Out of Darkness is the following. That's on a Thursday. Saturday is Out of Darkness Walk at the Park. That's with America's Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And it is the City of Las Vegas Jazz Festival at Clark County Building. That's going to be April 25th, 26th, and 27th. Shout out to Kim and Dwelle and Guapole and everybody that's going to be out there.
And the VAC, as well as the Montford Point Marines, Chapter 46, will be continually to acknowledge and find and tribute to our war heroes and veterans, and also bringing better services and quality of life to our existing veterans.
We're going to do programs. Like a lot of you know, I was doing a lot of walking, but I've been all over the city trying to do some restructuring and strategies for my brothers and sisters in arms that are serving and those that aren't in arms, serving those in arms. I love them to death, and I needed to dedicate the last 5 months to them to ensure that we developed and didn't lose those programs. Now that everybody has what they need, we will go back into not just the events, but I'll come back with workshops. Dr. Grayson will also be doing those mentorship programs. So the mentorship programs, we have all those things that we still do. We will update you when it comes to Forgotten Not Gone. MVP is still open on Fridays at Randy Couture's gym, so you can go and get that, as well as the extended gyms that are out there. Please look at the website for that. Your other weekly workshops, please check your va.gov. Make sure that you are in the PTSD program for mental health. If you have your PTSD, because if you're at your primary care and you're just seeing that, you don't have full access to all of the different avenues of recovery and rehabilitation. So ensure that you go to 6900 South Green Building and you get enrolled. I still make sure that Dr. Mooring gets all of those mental health cases from outside to inside, as well as it goes directly to the Chief Veteran Experience, to Chuck Ramey, when I have some of those cases. So it's not that I am not serving when it comes into case management. I am giving it back to the funded organizations to address it so that I can manage and create what's needed for the community development stage in our Living Free Souls strategist work, as well as allowing these funding and everything to flow systematically the way it's supposed to. In May, we will have some events coming up, but as of right now, that's what we got for April. We will Our new CIO is Christina Ray. Our new COO is going to be Sam Howard. He is with Caesar, so we'll be doing some different things coming up, and we'll be looking at our gala work that's going to be in the future for the summer. And I am going to be announcing where we'll be doing our second annual Veterans Brain Trust. That has been a spinoff. The VA has loved that nationally. So we have, not Veteran Brain Trust, Veteran Block Party. So the second annual Veteran Block Party, we're not going to do it in sports arena because of the liability. Somebody can get hurt.
Right.
Disabilities is real in our teams.
Mm.
So we will look at it doing it in a safe way. It may be golfing, it may be bowling, but it's not going to be softball where I can.
No. Golfing is a good.
We could do
way
that
to
golfing. I could call my girls and we could do that together.
Mm-hmm.
We can make it a collective.
Yeah, my golfing queen out there, she has a little organization that she has teaching people golf and stuff like that. She's good. She got a event in Pebble Beach coming up in, I think, August or October. So she's a good asset for that. I know all the golf.
We're going to talk about that offline.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to...
We're going to have that event coming up, y'all. So blessings, love, and light. I hope this helped you. No, we are the people for the people. We come here monthly to let you know how much it is that we need from you to do the good work and to continue to be the blessing that you are for others. Blessings to you all. Thank you.